Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of There's Still Time, the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhower.
2 shows in a week. We are spoiling you, Ambassador. Don't know if you guys had that Ferrero Rocher advert over here back in the 80s and the 90s, but anyone from back home in the UK will know what I'm talking about. So, hopefully we can make this show more exciting than the 0-0 draw between the Whitecaps and the Dynamo. Obviously, for this 0-0 draw, we will be delving into it for 90 minutes before turning into anything else. No, obviously, I joke. We will be rattling through that game because there is not tons to talk about. But before we even get to that, I've got an apology to make. I've been critical of English fans, but they got it right. Football is coming home. They just meant to Vancouver. And they were just a little bit premature. So well done to them for calling that, because the Whitecaps are coming back to Canada. If you smell what the Rock is cooking. I was trying to turn that into a football thing, but it hasn't quite worked. But yes, guys, the Whitecaps are returning from Utah. After the game in LA at the weekend, they will be coming back to train on Tuesday at the training centre. It's very exciting. They've still got another game that they have to play down in Utah. We will cover all of that in the next part. But are you excited to have the boys finally coming home?
I'm excited for them. To be, look, at this point, well, the thing is, I don't know when they're going to play. It's probably not going to be till late August. So it's not. It's they're coming home, but they'll be going on a road trip as soon as they come home, or stuff like that. So it's not like they're playing home until right now. So I'm excited for them because it's good for them to come home and not have to do these long trips and everything like that. Or not long trips, but be away.
They've got
from
longer
home.
Trips now.
Yeah, no, they got longer trips. Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is they're being away from home for extended periods. Obviously, their family was there, but still, your life is in Vancouver. You're still like a guest somewhere else when you're doing it. It's not home.
And not everyone's families went down with them as well.
Okay.
And
well,
there's some guys that haven't even seen Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, the visas are good to come back into Canada.
And hopefully the wildfire smoke keeps going in an easterly direction and doesn't suddenly change and come west, because they might think, what have we come to? But I mean, it's we'll delve into it in the next part of that. But it is good. It's what I think a lot of the players and Marc Santos and the management team, they've just been wanting for so long. So I'm delighted for them more than anything.
Yeah, I won't be with the fans who are trying to gather at the airport or anything to welcome them back. But
I thought it was a nice touch, but there is still a pandemic going on, guys. So.
Yeah, and are they on a charter flight? Because I saw people speculate. Yeah, see, people were like, "Oh, the Air Canada flight comes into this time." I was like, I think they're on a charter.
They'll be. Well, MLS you have to charter, so it's like there's still no just commercial flying because the pandemic is not over. And if you look at some of the stats coming out of America in the last couple of weeks, it's most definitely not over. But we won't delve into that anymore just now. This part, we're going to look at the Whitecaps' latest game, 0-0 with Houston Dynamo. Not a lot to talk about in this one. The Caps went into it on a high. They beat LA. Short 72-hour turnaround, though. Houston coming into this 2 weeks off. So we talked about it at the weekend show. Were they going to be rusty? Were they going to be fresher? But they were coming into this winless on the road, winless in 6. They've left it still winless on the road, winless in 7. But this was a game that, if you looked at the fixtures coming up for the Whitecaps, you circled this one as a definite potential 3-pointer. I feel it was a game they should have won. Could they have won it on the night? There was a couple of chances. I think a draw on the night was probably the fairest result. But I think it was a wasted opportunity, Steve.
I agree that it could have been a win, but the fact that it was a 72-hour turnaround, that made it very difficult. And again, like you said, Houston, were they rusty? Were they fresher? That played a part. For me, the biggest factor was some of the lineup changes that were made that didn't really work out for me. But overall, I think they definitely could have won it. 1 or 2 changes in that lineup, not people that they took off, but people they didn't put on, I think could have made a big difference. And I'm talking about up front.
Yeah, I mean, what's your overall thoughts on the game, Zach? Before we get to the lineup part, just what did you make of the overall performance?
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about the lineup like Steve as well, but I think the overall performance it was good enough for a draw, but I agree with you that they'll be disappointed that they didn't take all 3 points. As we were talking in our preview on the last show, this felt like a game that was really there for the taking based on Houston's inability to win away from home and their current form, players they were missing, all these. There's a number of factors where it felt like this needed to be a win for Vancouver. So disappointed for them that it's not. But I also agree with your assessment, Michael, that based on how the game actually played out on the field, a draw seemed like the correct result based on the run of play.
Well, let's get to the lineup. We'll get your thoughts on that then. Only 2 changes, both on the defensive side. I would have freshened the midfield up because, I mean, the defence, they were very solid against LA. In this one, again, they were a solid defensive effort, and Thomas Asal didn't have much to do. If you're picking players of the game, they probably are all on the defensive side. I would have liked to have seen that midfield freshened up, just because that's where the weakness is, as we've talked about, as long with perhaps finishing opportunities that are presented to you. But what did you make of the lineup then, Zach?
Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing that I felt was better from the midfield was it felt like they learned some lessons from the previous game in terms of playing more of a triangle as opposed to playing more flat. And I think were a little more flat in this, and that helped them. But I agree with you. It would have been nicer to see some options in there, even if they were younger options like Metcalf or players like that, or Caillou, starting.
I mean, Marc said afterwards that Godoy was rested because they're looking at the long-term thing. He could have gone in this, but I guess they are worried because he has had so many injuries that they don't want to risk too much. So, I mean, that took away my option of having Andy Rose as a defensive midfielder. Yeah. Marc has kind of hinted we may see all 3 of them in this run of games. But yes, some younger blood in that midfield, or at least earlier substitutions to bring them in, I think would have been good.
I really, really wanted to see Godoy and Ranko again at center back.
I did too.
I think that was a real missed opportunity. I think it was probably good to rest Brown at right back and to bring Jake on there, even though as we talked about in our chat, he's probably the 4th or 5th best right back at the club.
Yeah,
right now.
But in saying that though, he had a very solid performance.
Yeah, he was the highest.
Doesn't offer enough offensively for my liking for a fullback, but defensively can't knock him.
Yeah, I saw somewhere he was the highest rated player of the game.
He was
for Vancouver.
Yeah,
which is based on the fact that they attacked him the most, especially in I think the second half.
Yeah,
and he came through without conceding. But
I mean, they only allowed one shot on target. They kept a clean sheet. The flip side of that is that there was no goals for the Whitecaps, no shots on target for the whole 90 minutes from the Whitecaps. The front line didn't seem on the same page. And I guess my big annoyance just seemed to be, Steve, that White seemed a step off where he needed to be. Dahomey sent a few dangerous balls into the box, and he was just either the ball was just ahead of him or he wasn't tall enough to get to it. And obviously there's not a lot you can do to make yourself taller. Yeah. But he just seemed a step off where they wanted him to be.
And that's where I wish they had done something at the striker position if they were going to play a really tight midfield with the back line, and they were only going to push the three guys forward, the front line, that they needed a more athletic third player. And I thought that if not to start, I thought they should have brought in either a Toss or a Theo Bair in sooner, knowing that Dahomey was very spot on with his crosses in this game. He had a number of good crosses that White, especially, I think it was the one that really was the biggest, probably annoying one, was in the second half around the hour mark, or maybe a little bit after the hour mark, just before they substituted Torsten Ricketson, that he just wasn't able. He wasn't able to get to the ball, and if he had just been a step quicker, that was in the net, or if it was a different striker.
I think, well, I mean, that's the thing, Zach. Like, Marc wants Cava in the 6-yard box. If White had been in the 6-yard box, I think one of those would have been put away. Both of them are quite slow attackers. They don't have that pace.
Yeah, which is something that our German friend Manu Veth brought up in the post game, which I thought was really interesting. Very valid. Yeah, neither of them are. He basically said neither of them are fleet of foot, and more so that their pace differential to the wingers that Vancouver has is considerable. And Marc, of course, gave probably the answer he needed to, saying they have all of our nines have qualities that we value and appreciate and are useful to us and that kind of thing. But I agree with you that pace, and even I guess you could argue positioning or movement, from with a different approach could have led to at least a goal, and definitely some shots on goal. I know we talked about this a long time ago, but I still think when you hit the framework of the goal, that should count as a shot on goal. But that's just me.
Yeah, I do as well. And well, I mean, let's get to that, because I mean, not much to talk about from the game. It was a game of 2 free kicks, one in each half. Houston, great free kick from Urruti, crashed off the right post. Second half, Christian Gutierrez, almost identical position, crashed off almost identical place on the right post as well. Crazily identical free kicks there. So I mean, that was good. The thing I think that annoyed me most, though, from the chances that the Whitecaps did create, was the second Gutierrez free kick, where it was lofted in to the back post. 3 Whitecaps go for it, and not one of them connected, or were even looking close to connecting. Any one of them gets something on that, you have to think there was a good chance that would have gone in the back of the net.
Yeah, it was good service, good delivery.
Yeah, frustrating. What's your thoughts on that one, Steve?
Yeah, that's the one that wasn't the most frustrating. Like I said, the one earlier was more frustrating for me because it was so close. This was just I hate to say it, but a typical Whitecaps kind of inability to get their foot on the ball or any kind of part of their body.
Any part of their body.
Yeah, so it's just it's very typical of what we've seen before.
The subs in this game as well, it's not the first time you look at the bench and you're like, there's not a lot of spark on the bench for us if we want to bring it on. And then you've got Houston making a couple of really dangerous subs on the hour mark. Like, you've got the luxury of bringing on a Mimo Rodriguez. It's like fantastic. And
Darwin Quintero.
Darwin Quintero.
Well, I know he's not in form or anything, but
no, but he can.
Yeah, but he hasn't basically done anything this year at all. Like, not even one goal.
He's a surprise. He's a guy that should be doing so much more.
You could say potential danger in that substitution, but nothing from historical since he's joined Houston. Like
that's fair.
He's only come on as subs. I don't think maybe he's had one start or something like that, but he's basically done nothing since he's come on for them.
But I just when you look
this year,
when you look at the talent and the abilities of those two benches, it's pretty glaring.
Yeah. That's definitely where the Whitecaps fall down with having such a young and inexperienced side, that when you've got guys away on international duty or injured, your bench looks weak, for want of a better word. But it didn't cost them. Neither did Houston get in a corner in the dying seconds of stoppage time. When they won that, I was like, if they score from this, I just don't know what the damage is going to do to this team. But they held on. So those ghosts are hopefully well buried now. Anything else you want to talk about from the game?
No. There weren't any notifications that I need to talk about.
There were none, probably, literally.
Just started the game, halftime, and then ended the game.
I think that as disappointing as the coaches will be and the players will be, I think the fact that they didn't lose is a positive, and the fact that they are, what is it? I can't remember now, 4 points or whatever out of a playoff spot.
That's changed a little bit.
Oh, right, today. There's games, right?
Yes,
right.
We'll cover that.
They're whatever.
They were 3 points out of the playoff spots.
And now
when you finished the game,
is it 7? I haven't looked at the table today.
I think it's 6 now.
Okay, so 6 points back, I think, is not. They're partially where they want to be, which is in touching distance. Obviously, they want to be in there, but I don't think it's, obviously it's not good enough. But I think for who they are, what they have, what Marc has at his disposal, I think coming off the back of a win and then not losing this game, I think is a positive for them.
When did Cavallini and Carducci go? That was back. Their last game was against
Carducci. Carducci hasn't gone anywhere.
Crepo.
You're just obsessed with Marco Carducci.
No, it's because they have the same initials. Then I just keep getting confused.
They went.
Yeah, our Sol game was the last.
Yeah,
game, right? That would be the first game without them.
Yeah.
So after that, they've picked up a win. They basically won 1-1 since they left. Obviously, the loss was probably the worst of all of it. So it's just they're kind of treading ground while these two, their two main players are gone. So it's a matter of waiting until they come back and other reinforcements come in, and hopefully that's in enough time that they can turn it around. But big game coming up in a week time for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Or 3 days.
Yeah, much less than a week. Let's hear now from both head coaches after the game. So we'll hear first of all from Houston's Tab Ramos, and then we'll hear a little bit from Vancouver Whitecaps' Marc de Santos.
Yeah, I think it was a well fought game. I think both teams obviously gave it everything they had. Both teams were looking for the win. I thought for a road game, our team did well. In particular, we're continuing to improve in our possession game. I thought maybe in the first half we didn't do as well, but I thought the second half we had some very good moments, in particular towards the end of the game, because I think it's, it definitely looked like our team was looking for the win, and we pushed numbers forwards and we almost got it.
How would you describe the level of frustration as not being able to win on the road yet, if there is any at all?
I don't have any frustration at all. I'm trying for the team to play better and better and to win more games, whether it's at home or on the road. Just so happens that we haven't won on the road. Obviously, it's more difficult to win on the road. But I think today, certainly the game could have gone either way. And if anything, I think we probably did a little bit more to win the game. So I'm happy with the team and the effort that they made today.
It was kind of a flashback to last year, going back to playing in an empty stadium again. What was that like for you mentally, and then for everybody?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, because it reminds you of how bad it was. And I was talking to Marc de Santos after the game, and I said, "Man, this has got to be so difficult for you guys still to be in this, at least now you get to go home. So I'm happy for them. I know this has not been easy for any of the Canadian teams, and I'm happy for them that they get to go home.
The game tonight, it felt a really solid defensive showing from the team. Not a lot to deal with, but what they dealt with admirably. And kind of touching on what Manuel asked there, it felt like the crosses were coming in, but they were just either a step too far ahead of Brian, or he just wasn't tall enough to get on the end of them. Is that kind of how you saw the game play out?
Yeah, look, Michael, I thought that, our moments of pressure have been good in the last two games. We had a good intensity in the first half. We didn't look like a team that played 72 hours ago versus a team that rested for 13 days. I actually thought we would get more under pressure and Houston would have more energy. But we had good energy in the game. Then we have the ball in the opponent's half. What you have to be always careful with is in transition, the runs of Fafa Picault, the runs of Urruti. That's where they could have been a little bit dangerous. But then again, when we're in the opponent's half and around the final third, around the box, I felt we lacked a spark. Maybe it would have been a different game if all Dajo, Brian, and Daber were at least with the 7 days match to match rest and recovery. So I felt that in some moments it was a second late, a yard late, a run that wasn't done, that was necessary to be done. And that spark we felt that wasn't there, in the second half. Again, it was very similar. But I think in the second half, the danger was the game started to open up a little bit. Our lines were stretched. And then when they brought Quintero and Memo, there was always a factor maybe of danger for them because it's players that have quality to make something happen. But I think, like you said, we still... Look, tonight we played a very disciplined game overall, but we were not able to just find and unlock the opponent in moments like that. Even though if Dajo had a few crosses incredibly dangerous, Guti hit the post, they hit the post too, and then there's a free kick that goes so close where Andy arrives half a yard late, so I didn't feel it was big chances, but there was a lot of VAF chances that could have been better.
We touched on this when we spoke yesterday. Looking at the schedule that's to come, it's tough managing the squad and trying to get the best out of the players. Is it going to be kind of a case for these games that's coming up? You're just going to maybe have to wait until the day before or the day of the game to make some of your decisions, or do you have a set team in mind?
There's no... coaches that plan it, like you play here, these guys play there, they get so surprised with the week of player X as a knock that nobody was expecting, or a change that you had planned that you can't do anymore. So it's very dangerous doing that. We manage players that have more tissues that are different, because every muscle has... Some players have different type of tissues. Some are more explosive than others. Some need more rest than others. But then there's others that it's just hard to make plans and change like that. But we try to plan as much as we can. But it's really a case of tomorrow we have a day off and we're back here Thursday. There's a lot happening around our team right now. Also, always talks about when we're going to return and things like that. So I think today, the day off tomorrow after the game against Galaxy Houston is needed. And then tomorrow night, I'll already receive some reports on how guys are doing. And then Thursday night, we could start thinking about what's next, And sometimes people ask me, rotation of center backs. Maybe we'll need the 3 center backs to play on Saturday. You know, we have to think about everything very well.
Like switching out Eric and bringing Andy in, it worked, but it seemed surprising not to maybe give Eric and Ranko a couple of games together to get a bit of familiarity. Was it just to rest the guys up?
Yeah, no, trust me, Eric is a player that he would be if he would have played today, would be fine. But there's things that we have to manage, and then we have to trust that the other players we have in our roster could do the job. So there's a trust and recovery. This day was very good for Eric. So he would have played if we would ask him to, but we have to manage. And we look at the full picture of the year, and we don't want to lose guys for 2 or 3 months because of stupid decisions.
He's a gaffer. You can't try it on with him. He's a gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's a gaffer. When his back's against the wall. Has the answers to it all. He's a gaffer.
So the gaffer's there, just talking about the game. MDS, pretty upbeat. But there is a tough spell to come, obviously. I mean, they're disappointed that they didn't get the win, as they should be. Now, depends if you're a glass half full or a glass half empty person, and both of these are factually accurate. So the Whitecaps is 1 loss in 5, if you want to look at the optimistic viewpoint, or it's 1 win in 10, if you want to look at the pessimistic viewpoint. Both are correct. How do you look at things?
I think the Vancouver is a glass city.
Ha! Very good. What about you, Steve? I've got to say I'm more in the 1 in 10. That's just the pessimistic Scottish nature of mine, though.
Yeah, I'm because I don't games that are like far on or whatever, especially in football. I'm not worried about the last 10 games. I'm more worried about the last, essentially here for the last 5. And
I'm worried about the next 10.
No, well, yeah, but I usually look at 5-game intervals. I don't look at 10-game intervals because there's such a huge gap because they play a week apart typically. So I usually look at 5. So in this case, I would probably look at 1 loss in 5 games, even though I believe like essentially 2 of those draws should have been wins because they had held the lead late in the game.
Yeah.
So
it's frustrating.
Yeah, so you want actually 3 wins in the last 5 games. That would be ideal, but 1 loss in 5 games, I guess you have to look at it that way.
Well, that is a positive way of looking at it, and there's been other positive news for Vancouver, as we touched about at the start of the show. The boys are coming home. We'll talk about that after this.
Hi, I'm Marc dos Santos, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Shooting blanks. One boy who pays the rent in advance. One boy who doesn't stagger and drunk. One boy who doesn't stink like a skunk. Normal boy. Normal boy. Normal boy. A normal boy.
Looking for the love of a normal girl. I'm looking for the love of a normal girl. One girl who doesn't believe in pain, who doesn't always want to do it again, who is addicted to Australian soaps, a girl that doesn't tell filthy jokes. Normal girl, a normal girl, a normal girl, a normal girl.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, It's the latest song from this month's Artist of the Month here at AFTN, Edinburgh band Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie, with a song from their third studio album and fifth album overall, 1994's Five, and that was a song, Normal Boy. That was the last album they recorded with Shirley Manson before she joined Garbage, and that was her and the vocals there, and that whole album's got a more kind of grungy feel, because they were very influenced by grunge at that point. And then Shirley Manson went on and formed Garbage and got worldwide success.
I believe I read up on this thing that she was actually supposed to record more vocals and be more present in the album, but it eventually ended up only being this song that she was on.
Yeah, well, her and the lead singer were going out, and there was creative as well as personal differences. So
yeah.
Basically, I think she was getting a lot of the attention. He didn't quite like that, and that was the end of it. And then, it was the end of the group as well, because she's obviously a big star.
And then they joined, they formed Angelfish or something.
Yeah,
like
that was basically the reminder of the band, which they were never as good, but they reformed in 2019, and they've had a couple of sold-out gigs in Scotland, and I'd love to see them again. I don't think I've seen them since the early 90s, so that would be...
Did Manson didn't rejoin the group, right?
No, she hasn't.
Okay, so it's just the guys.
Yeah. Actually, I must have seen them about when that album came out in 94. I'm sure everyone listening to this is absolutely fascinated.
Oh, sorry about that.
But that's the song Normal Boy, because everyone is wanting some normality back these days. The thing I've learned is, in the UK, we say normality, but here you guys say normalcy.
I've used both.
It's something Caitlin pointed out to me, because she said, "You're saying that wrong." I'm like, "No, I'm not." And then we looked it up, and that was why. But anyway, everyone is looking for some kind of normal. What is the normal these days? Well, the Whitecaps might be getting back to a bit more normal feel, because as we talked about, they're coming home at long last, pending government exemptions being granted. They should be playing a home game at BC Place against LAFC on August 21st. They will be coming home though before that. They will be leaving after, funnily enough, playing LAFC down in LA on Saturday night, flying home to Vancouver, having their first training session at the training up at UBC on Tuesday the 27th. They then cancelled their game on the 28th against Austin. Austin agreed to move that game to September so it can be at BC Place. And then they've got one more home game that they should have been playing here, but they can't. So they're playing that in Utah. So they'll fly back down to Rio Tinto to take on Minnesota in what is a massive game standings-wise, and we'll come to that shortly. And that is on the 31st of July, a week on Saturday. And the folk are like, well, why haven't they been able to get into BC Place? And we touched on this a little bit in the last show, but basically the Whitecaps had to make a decision in May as to what they were going to do. And at that point, the government, they didn't know what they were going to do with border, with exemptions, everything like that. So the Whitecaps have a hold on dates at BC Place. So they had to give up the holds on the dates in July, and that is why they can't play at BC Place. Now, they did look at playing at another stadium in BC. I was pushing for them to play at Swangard, like the old days. But if you want fans in, it's problematic with how many you can have in. If you want to have distancing, security, all that kind of stuff. So the decision was made to play that game down in Utah. So at least it's only one more game. And then they will be back August 21st. Hopefully, the start of nine home games that they can maybe make the most of home field advantage and get Fortress BC Place.
Is there a reason that the August 21st hasn't been announced officially yet?
Yes, because officially the government has not given exemptions to any of the three Canadian MLS teams.
Well, two of them are using exemption.
Yeah, no, they're using temporary, so they haven't got permanent.
Oh, okay.
So
Vancouver doesn't even have a temporary one for August 21st, is what you're saying?
Right now, no. Because Montreal and Toronto only had it for the next couple of weeks. So it's all still to get agreed. But if you're giving it to baseball, you're giving it to hockey, surely you can't say no to to football when you've got players that are fully vaccinated.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of them probably working with MLS. Maybe it's been a little bit slow. You know how long it takes them to, set up a contract and everything like that in their thing. So they kind of drag their feet a little bit probably, and it's just a matter of getting all the T's, dotted and the I's crossed and everything like that, and should be good to go. Oh, I think that's how MLS does it, right?
Yeah, probably is how MLS does it, to be honest.
Whatever you say, Marco Carducci.
But it's a tough spell coming up for the Whitecaps. So they've got LAFC away this weekend. Then they've got a week's break till Minnesota at home in Utah at the end of July. August starts off with 3 games on the road: LA Galaxy, San Jose Earthquakes, Austin. Now, from watching the games, they look like tough games. San Jose and Austin, maybe even the Galaxy, you could maybe get points from those. Austin do look very good at home just now. But even then, when they do return home, they've got LAFC, which is a tough game. But they do tend to do well, at least at BC Place, against LAFC. Let's have a quick look at the standings, because it's been we're recording this on Wednesday night, so it's been a full night of MLS action. I like DAZN when you go onto the website or you go onto your phone, and it lets you, if you switch on spoilers, it lets you watch where the goals took place or whatever. Yeah. So for quickness, to save watching 4 7-minute highlights, I rattled through all the games tonight. So we're not going to go through everything, but basically just the results for the West. Kansas City and San Jose drew 1-1. San Jose took the lead in that one in the second half. I actually watched the first half of that one. It was all Kansas City.
Yeah, it was against the run of play for sure in that one.
I mean, San Jose looked really poor. And then they've got this knack. It's almost a bit like what the Whitecaps can do, of suddenly from a set piece, they're a danger and they put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And it was Nathan that scored, not Mr. Whitecaps, but the San Jose's Nathan. And they held that lead until stoppage time. And,
well, they lost a guy too.
Well, yeah, but that was after Kansas City had tied it up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah, because Daniel Chaloy, he tied it up after Johnny Russell, great free kick off the post, and there was a tap-in from Chaloy.
They almost had a penalty in the 90th minute too, and that was reversed by VAR.
That I didn't see.
Yeah, that was reversed by VAR. That got reversed by VAR. Then they scored the goal. Then the red card happened. Yeah.
Yeah, because straight from the kickoff they were pushing forward, and then Judson brought down. I can't remember who he brought down, but then it was a second yellow, and he was sent off.
Yeah.
From a Whitecaps point of view, the more draws that there are right now helps us, and the more that the top 4 or the top 5 can beat the teams below them and kind of pull away a bit, that kind of helps us as well. One of those teams that's in the top 5 just now is Colorado Rapids, who still are looking very impressive. And I watched again a little bit of this game, and then I just caught up with what the goals were. It's a 2-0 win to Colorado. Absolutely fantastic header to open the lead from Abu Bakar. And then Michael Barrios with a shot that kind of, the keeper I think was sort of, couldn't see the ball coming through. It was shielded a little bit.
But it was very typical Michael Barrios goal. It's like copy and paste kind of goal for him.
And then I've watched little bits of all these games, and then I watched all of Portland and LAFC. But the other game was RSL LA, 2-2 draw, another good result for the Whitecaps. Salt Lake were 2 goals up.
And LA Galaxy came back,
Yeah, Vasquez got one in the 33rd minute, and the Revelison got one in the 77th minute to tie it up. It was an entertaining match from the first half that I saw.
Vasquez's goal was identical to where he sent in the cross, except this time he scored. Like same part in the box that he to send in the cross against the Whitecaps. He scored and it was basically our same stadium, so essentially the same spot.
Then the last game at night, I watched this on TSN, had that on the telly, had Pacific Game on the laptop. Portland beat Saturday's opponents for the Whitecaps, LAFC 2-1.
In the death.
Yeah, they scored early, they scored late. Valeri 2 minutes in, Mora 93rd minute, with Vela tying it up in the 17th minute. I mean, a draw would have been really good for the Whitecaps in this one. foolishly, I'm still holding out hopes and looking at things that might help the Whitecaps in a playoff thing, because without hope, what's the point of watching football? But, I mean, Portland looked good in this one. LA's defence look susceptible. And as we talked about in the weekend show, with the goal that RSL scored against them at the weekend, you run at that defence and they have problems. That surely has to be the Whitecaps modus operandi for the weekend.
That's
which
what
is why
happened
I think we'll see Ricketts or Baer start up top.
Yeah, that's what happened in that winning goal too. It's just basically Blanco sent it into the box and the defense could not handle the score. Mora, I think it was Mora.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I really think, Diber and Dahome are going to be given instructions to, dribble through, take advantage more of one-on-ones as opposed to just build up play, build up passing. That they're going to be instructed to take on that defense when they play them.
And I'll quickly talk about susceptible defenses. In New England 5.
Oh, yes.
Inter Miami 0-0 in that one.
I mean, who would have thought Gary Neville would have struggled as an MLS head coach?
Not Steve.
One of the games that actually you were talking about how boring the Houston Vancouver game was at 0-0.
Yeah.
Columbus and Nashville. I saw the highlights for this one. It was just all over the place.
That was one I didn't even bother watching because I saw it was 0-0.
No, they at the end of the game, it was just everybody collapsed on the field. That's how crazy that game was. Columbus had so many chances, and Nashville was just stopping them every single time. It was unbelievable. Great game.
Maybe check that out. I didn't watch the only one I haven't seen anything of was that one and the Montreal game because Montreal lost NYC.
Yeah, ending their streak.
Yeah, time for my regular moan of why do they not let DAZN show the Montreal games? If they're showing it on French TVA and TSN's not showing them, let us watch it in English, please.
Yeah, it's weird also because TVA or whatever is not widely available because typically I wouldn't mind. If it was on my TV in French, I would record it.
Yeah, I think you have to pay to get the French stuff, at least you do in TELUS.
Which is why they're not letting DAZN show it.
But the standings after those games, there's one game tomorrow, which is Austin and Seattle. It's at Austin, I think. Let me double check that. I'm pretty sure it was at Austin. Austin, yeah, it is. So Austin could have a chance in that one. Vancouver had moved up to 11th with the point that they had got on Tuesday night. San Jose's point today, though, dropped them back down to 12th. They're still 2 points ahead of Dallas now. At the top, Seattle out on top because KC only drew, so they didn't make up the game in hand that they had. Then LA in third on 25, Colorado on 24. Oh yeah, Galaxy I should say. LAFC 5th on 21, Portland 6th on 19, Minnesota on 18. So we're 5 points behind. And some of the teams above us have a game in hand. That for me, that Houston one, I'm not saying and calling it now that's damaged our playoff hopes irreversibly because we know what MLS is like if you string a few results together. I just feel it's a costly 2 points dropped. And I think it makes the Minnesota game next Saturday massive for them.
Yeah, as much as I think they can take positives from it right now, it definitely is a result that down the road could be problematic.
Well, LAFC's next up at the weekend. We won't delve into too much of a preview of it. I worry what might happen in this one. Personnel-wise, I think you bring Eric Godoy back. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see 5 at the back and they bring Andy Rose in as well so they can switch to a 3-5-2, 5-3-2, depending on what they want to do. And I think we see Ricketts or Theo Baer start up front to get that pace. Could be Theo's time. And then, as you said, get Dahome and Caicedo if they're both in to run at them. I've got a funny feeling one of them might be dropped and we might see Ryan Raposo in.
Well, if you go 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, then presumably Gutierrez is going to be on the left and either Jake or more likely Brown is going to be on the right.
Yeah.
So then I think, you're going to have one of those guys partner Toss or Theo up top.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be Dahome. drop Caicedo, maybe bring Raposo into the midfield, but I don't know how he would.
No,
do there.
I don't think you would need to put Raposo. I think you just have if you're doing 5-3-2, figure out who you want to play in the midfield. But basically, maybe Alexandra.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's got to be Kaio and Baldy, and probably Bikel then, I guess.
Or Owusu if he's out of the doghouse.
Let's talk about Owusu. I don't understand what is happening with him. It's another Derek Cornelius situation, and it just who
Owusu.
But I don't know what he has to do to get some game time here.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling because it's definitely not an injury issue, or else somebody would have brought it up.
Yeah, well, he's been on the bench to come on as a sub. So, and Cam Habidallah's not even been on the bench the last few games as well, which is a bit of a strange one.
So I think that I don't think Raposo will definitely not. I have a feeling he will definitely not be in the starting lineup.
He'll probably come on though because he didn't see any game time on Tuesday.
But I think it's up top. It's either Dahomey with White or Dahomey with Ricketts or Bear. So I think that's probably what you're looking for up top.
What's your predictions for it? I'm going to get in early with 3-0 LAFC.
2-0 LAFC.
Okay, I'll go. You took all the good scores. Okay,
I'll go
6-0 LAFC.
I'll go 4-0.
No, I'll be the contrarian. I'm going to say 2-2.
Ooh.
I'm going to say some crazy stuff happens and 2-2.
Because we were so optimistic after the LA game for the Houston game, and I said it's always a bad sign when we're optimistic.
I called it a draw.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, you were right. I do still need to go back and see how we're doing with all these. The longer this goes on, the harder I think that makes it for me. But anyway. But there's still been no new signings announced. Maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. I just have a sneaking feeling that because they're coming back to Vancouver and training is on Tuesday, I would not be surprised if they reveal Ryan Gauld on Tuesday before training.
Oh. Isn't there reports that he's in Vancouver right now?
Yeah, Glass City had tweeted tonight that basically he's been told that he's in Vancouver. He'd been down in Utah, but it looks like he's already back in Vancouver. So fingers crossed that they can reveal him soon. Marc had said the new additions would be available for August. So July 31st is as good as August.
Yeah,
so I genuinely think they could reveal him on Tuesday at training. So I had a dental appointment that I have now shunted because I don't want to miss their first day back.
Are you going to go to training that day?
Yeah.
Oh, what time is it at? Maybe I'll join you.
Don't know yet. It also might be limited because when they had folk back at training in the fall, it was only a couple of people that were allowed to go on a given day. Let's talk about the other big news that came out this week just to round off this part. The 2021 Canadian Championship is a goer. And things have changed slightly since I asked Marc about it on Tuesday night. But if anyone hasn't seen it, the Whitecaps are in the first round of the tournament this year. They don't get a bye like Forge, Toronto and Montreal. So they have to play the game that so many of us have been looking forward to for years, Pacific FC, a BC derby, the first time the Whitecaps have played a team in BC in a competitive game. Very, very excited for this one. Whoever wins that travels to face the winner of Edmonton and Cavalry. What's your thoughts on the draw, the matchup with Pacific, and just the seeding of the Whitecaps?
The seeding of the Whitecaps thing, which MDS was obviously expecting,
quite irate about.
Isn't that based on the tournament last year?
Yeah, but he is saying that they've basically changed the criteria because in previous years it was where you finished in MLS that got you the bye.
Right, which he's correct. However, I would say I would like to see with most things them bring things in line with football in the rest of the world. And in the rest of the world, in the majority of the rest of the world, what determines your seeding in a tournament like this is what happened in the previous year, either in the tournament or in your league standing. So
because his argument is in the league standings, Vancouver got more points than Montreal.
Right. Yeah, but
because they obviously didn't play the tournament last year. But in 2019, cavalry had knocked them out.
But I like going with the tournament because not all the teams are in the same actual pyramid.
Yeah, but if you're gonna do something like that, you have to announce it beforehand and not wait for the year and just change it on the fly. I'm just like, if you're gonna do that, you announce it this year. Starting this year, it'll be depending on what you do in the tournament for next year.
I 100% agree with you, Steve. But based on history and how they've announced these things, I don't think this is out of line with.
No, it's not. That's the big, because I guarantee you that they will change back if for some reason Toronto FC gets knocked out early in this thing or something like that.
Probably.
That's not an perspective either.
And in fact, if I can also see if Toronto FC gets knocked out in the semifinals, they'll just hand them the championship after.
When the final can't be played due to the fourth, fifth wave of the pandemic, they'll just make TFC the representative.
As Zach said there, MDS was not overly happy with how things played out. Let's play you some audio from Marc now. I asked him after the game against Houston just for his thoughts on the draw and the tournament being back. So here's what he had to tell me. So the draw's been made for the Canadian Championship. You've got the match that a lot of the supporters are wanting, Pacific FC, a real local derby as opposed to having to go hours and cross the border. Just what have you made of the draw, the competition, and the fact that the game's getting played 2 days before a crucial MLS game?
I think it's excellent. I love cups. I think that, it always gives a chance to second or third division teams, and it's exciting for our fans. It's exciting for the clubs involved, the CPL, every League One, and every club involved. I'm disappointed with the schedule. Number one, I don't know why we don't start ahead of another MLS team, because last year we had more points than them. That's number one. Number two, and you could go see, and it's a fact. If we have more points than them, we're ahead. Why do we play starting back? And then we haven't been enough on the road, that our run to reach the final is always on the road. So that is another thing that I would like to be explained to me. But, we're creating a mentality with the group of, I don't think anything phases us right now. You take us and we go play in, I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way to any country, because I love this country. I've lived there. But if tomorrow we play home games in Mozambique, it will be normal, good. Oh, Mozambique, let's go play, no problem. So right now, I just think it's a weird schedule. Number one, we finish with more points than a team. We should be in front. And number two, what? We're going to play on the road every day. It's enough. We've been enough on the road, So I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but I'm excited that there's going to be a Canadian Championship.
So MDS there, just chatting about the seeding, not happy. The other thing that he wasn't happy about, which has subsequently changed, is the game is getting played on Thursday, August 26th. 2 days later, the Whitecaps have a big MLS game at BC Place against Real Salt Lake. Ridiculous timing. Why is it not on the Wednesday? But as it now has turned out, the Whitecaps have managed to get RSL to agree to move that game to the Sunday, so they at least have the 3 days in between. I think that was a ridiculous decision to have that on the Thursday night, and I mean, you can't say it's for TV because the games are on One Soccer, so it's like it doesn't really matter. You're not going to be having tons of viewers for that. That just seemed really weird.
And the thing is, all the other games are like all over the place. Like there's in the first round, the first round it basically goes from August 15th to the 26th. That's your first round matchups.
Well, the second round also goes from the 14th to the 22nd. It's like
is that a single knockout?
Yeah, it's all single knockout. They're keeping their options open.
The single knockout is exciting.
Yeah, with the extra time and penalties, so it could be a long night over in the island on the 26th.
It feels like there's some missing information, though, right? Like it feels like the Starlight, West Hills, whatever stadium it's called, there's a community booking on the Wednesday that week. Or
Could
the
be,
Tuesday
because
that
the
week.
rugby team's in there and stuff as well. But
Yeah, they could be chasing eggs all over that place.
Yeah. It was just weird. But I mean, the thing for this, it's like fans are excited for it. We have got this BC derby. The way that you grow football in this country is to have local derbies. And let's be honest, it's great going to Seattle. It's great going to Portland. I know it's not that much shorter going over to Victoria from different bits of the mainland to going down to Seattle. In fact, depending where you stay, it might be quicker going down to Seattle. But to have a BC derby just feels special. It's like when there's a Fife derby for me back in Scotland, which is obviously a lot smaller size-wise of the county, but it's like it's great. It just adds to it. And for Pacific FC and for their fans, it's great for them. It's great for them to host. They get to have a realistic chance of beating the Whitecaps in this one. The fact that the MLS game is now 3 days later is probably going to mean the Whitecaps will put out a stronger team than they maybe would have if it was just 2 days later. But I know that Marc is going to want to win this and secure a spot in the Champions League if they can win the whole tournament.
Well, the thing is by August 26th, the Whitecaps might be out of the playoffs, or the season might be over.
This could be their big thing.
So they might put all their eggs in the basket of the Canadian Championship and not even worry about MLS and put the strongest lineup possible.
And it's going to be a wonderful occasion at Starlight. I'm going over for it. Caitlin Mead's going to go over for a few days before. What about you guys? Do you think you'll head over?
The family's talking about going over for it, yeah.
I'm already booked for that time, so I won't be able to make it.
We'll get you to a Pacific game yet. I was going to go over for the home opener, but basically now that they've got this, it's like I can't afford to go over for both, so I'll definitely be going over for this, get to training the day before, and looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting back into that stadium. It's absolutely wonderful stadium. And of course, a lot of the players in Pacific will be so up for this game because there's a lot of Whitecaps connections. This tournament, we spoke to Pamadou Ka about it actually last year when we did our first chat with him, and we said how magic it would be if he got to play the Whitecaps in this tournament and how special this tournament was to him. And you've got that, you've got assistant coach James Merriman had been in the academy here, so many of the players came through the Whitecaps. So I got a chance to ask assistant coach James Merriman just about the draw, the match with the Whitecaps, and just what a special night it's going to be for Pacific. Here's what he had to tell me. The other big news that came out yesterday, I don't know how long you guys have known about it, but obviously the matchup so many fans have been waiting for, Pacific taking on the Whitecaps coming up, Canadian Championship. You're one of the many guys that's got Whitecaps connections on this team. What's the mood of the group like with this game, and just how much are you personally looking forward to it and the test that you're going to face?
I am. I mean, I spent, almost 6 years with the organization, with the Whitecaps. A lot of good friends there, and a big part of my growth as a coach was spent there. So I know a lot of the players. Some of the young players that have now, I got to work with, have signed contracts and are in the first team now. Michael Baldissimo, Cam Habibullah, players like this that I spent 3, 4, 5 years with. So looking forward to coaching against them and just seeing them on the pitch. But then also we've got a ton of players in our group that played in the Whitecaps Academy. Pamadou Ka played and coached, as did I, Marc Village. I mean, Lagishan, our physiotherapist even. So there's so many ties between the two teams. And I know last year, we were excited, but we still had to get through Edmonton. We would still have to play a match and win that match, obviously, to then go on and play the Whitecaps. Whereas now we know we just focus on that is the first match of the Canadian Championship. So we can switch the focus to that. And I think everyone's generally just excited to play the game. And then I know we've got a few players that are also looking to, they've got something to prove, and they're looking forward to this game.
Pacific FC assistant coach James Merriman there. Everyone's definitely going to be up for it. It's going to be a special night. If you can get over to it, definitely do. I've seen a few folk talking about it and trying to sort out car shares and stuff. Just to let you know, though, you would have to have an overnight stay because the last ferry back is 9 o'clock, so you would not make it back. So on a Friday and at the weekend there's an 11:59 ferry, but that does not run on the Thursday. So if you are planning on going over, you need to kind of plan for an overnight stay. But hopefully they pack it out to comfortable COVID levels. Let's just leave it at that. But just to finish this section off, let's look at the rest of the first round draw and what that's going to mean. So York United play Masters FA from League One in Ontario. The winner of that then plays Toronto in the quarters. Whitecaps take on Pacific, as we mentioned, and then Edmonton host Cavalry, and the two winners of that will meet. The Whitecaps, it's a tough draw that they're in, because whoever would then win that could face Toronto in the semi-finals. Atletico Ottawa host Valor, and then the winners of that travel to Forge. And then Halifax Wanderers take on the Quebec AS Blainville side, and then the winner of that plays Montreal. So that could be a Quebec derby, or it could be another great game between Halifax Wanderers and Montreal. But, I mean, all in all, I'm just glad the tournament's back. The final is scheduled for sometime between October 19th and 27th. With Toronto and Forge having first round byes, hopefully they can fit in the 2020 final. Wouldn't that be nice? Crown that winner before we get the 2021 winner.
Or what if Forge and Toronto could play in this final, right?
Yeah, they could
double champions.
Double or nothing. AEW. Anyway, that is it for our Canadian Championship chat, but we're going to continue the Canadian vibe in the next couple of parts of the show, where we're turning our attention to the Whitecaps' opponents next month in the Canadian Championship, Pacific FC. We've got a couple of interviews to bring you, and we'll be back with the first of those after this.
Hey, it's Marco Bustos. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Are you from the north or US daughters at the Isle of Skye? Are you from the Isle of Barra, Egg, Muck, from Orcana? Are you from the Rocky Waters or the Hebrides? Oh, this is my island, oh, this is my island. From the port on Nice right through the mission till the end of time. Oh, this is my island, oh, this is my island. We feed the sheep and cut the beans until the day we die.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's former Artist of the Month here at AFTN, the wonderful Pete and Diesel from Stornoway in Scotland with their song Islands. Never tire of playing that. It's a wonderful song. The last track on their 2020 second album, Light My Buyer. If you didn't check them out when we played them as Artist of the Month, highly recommend you do. Absolutely wonderful band that I play way too often. My wife might argue when we're driving along in the car. And of course, the reason I've played that is I've adopted that song for whenever we chat about Pacific FC on Vancouver Island. And Pacific are heading home, just like the Whitecaps, albeit a little bit earlier in actually taking to the pitch here in BC. Pacific FC will be flying home from Winnipeg after their final match was played on Wednesday, July 21st. They don't have a game at the weekend. They're one of 4 teams that will get to fly home early from the kick-off tournament. It wraps up this weekend, but for Pacific FC in Ottawa, it's already done. Forge and Cavalry will be wrapping things up on Thursday night, and Pacific just can't wait to get back home. They've got their very first game in front of fans at Starlight Stadium for the 2021 season, kicking off next Friday, July 30th. I had hoped to make it over for that game. not going to be happening now, partly due to costs, but also partly because, as we mentioned in the last part, they will be playing Vancouver Whitecaps in Canadian Championship action at the end of August, so I'm saving my trip for that. But it's been a good start to the CPL season for them. Pamadou Ka has got them playing a very attractive brand of football. We've talked about it several times in the last few shows. They've been one of the joys to watch in this tournament as far as I'm concerned. Paz got them playing a nice brand of football. There's a lot of players on the team that obviously we know from their Whitecaps connections, and he's made other additions to the squad that are just very, very exciting to watch. So for the next two parts of this episode, we're going to be focusing on Pacific FC. And over the coming weeks as well, I'll be kind of hopefully covering them in every show, just building up to that big showdown on August 26th. And we've got a couple of interviews to bring you this episode. We're going to start things off in this part with one of the new additions that Pamadou Ka made to the Pacific team for this season. 23-year-old Northern Ireland midfielder Ollie Bassett, a guy that's had a very interesting journey to get to the CPL stage. He came through the youth ranks of Aston Villa, then Southampton, played some lower league football in England before getting loaned out to non-league after making his debut as a 17-year-old. Went and had a stint in New Zealand for a couple of years, and whilst down there, made a couple of contacts with people from the CPL that were playing down there. Headed back to England when COVID happened, thought, why not go for another adventure? He's over in Canada now, he's with Pacific FC, and he's had a fantastic start to the season. 1 goal and 2 assists in his first 6 matches. He's been a shining light for Pacific FC. He's definitely going to be one of the guys that I think is going to be potential newcomer of the year candidate come the end of the season if he keeps up his fantastic play so far. He's been great to watch in attack, linking up with Marco Bustos. He can play as an attacking midfielder, a second striker, even an out-and-out centre-forward if you want. So I got a chance to chat with Ollie last week. It was about a week ago that we chatted while Pacific still had 2 games left. So I'm going to bring you that for this part. So go make your favourite hot beverage, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back and enjoy a chat with Pacific FC midfielder Ollie Bassett. So we're joined now by a man that is having his first season in the Canadian Premier League. He's signed for Pacific FC. He's been one of their star performers in the opening games of this kick-off tournament that we've got going on at the moment. Welcome to the show, Ollie Bassett.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun watching you so far in these games, Ollie. Pacific 6 games in. I know you've kind of featured in 5 of them so far. How have you found life in the Canadian Premier League so far and life in the bubble?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it so far, actually. It's my first time, starting a season in sort of a bubble environment where, we're all in the same place and, we're around each other pretty much 24/7. But yeah, in terms of on the pitch, I think I've settled in, into the league pretty quickly. I've just tried to go out there and just play my normal game, just do what's got me to this point so far. And yeah, I just take every game as it comes, and yeah, we're just looking forward to hopefully kicking on and finishing the last 2 games as strongly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good start for the team. We'll kind of come to that towards the end of the interview. I want to take a look, though, just at your journey to get into Canada, getting into the CPL. So I know you started your youth career with Villa. You signed with them when you were 8, and then you got your scholarship with Southampton after that. How was that whole experience? As like a guy from the Midlands signing for one of the big Midlands teams, I mean, how did you find that as a young guy?
Yeah, it was obviously, I think I signed when I was 8. So I trained with them for a year when I was 7, but there was a rule or something, you can't sign until you're 8. But yeah, it was obviously, it was good as, I think growing up, all I wanted to do was really just play football. So to have the chance to go and play for for Villa throughout the age groups from 8 until 16, and then obviously train with good players and get coached by really good coaches. I learned a lot from that experience, and I think that's obviously where I picked up most of my skills and the technical side of the game was from spending so many years in their academy.
I remember I was reading a book a few years ago just about scouts in football in the UK, and they were talking about hardly, I think it was something like 97 or 98% of guys that come through academies of the top teams then disappear from football. They don't make the grade. So I know you'd moved from Villa, you had a little bit of time in the Southampton youth ranks, but then you ended up at Yeovil Town. Was that just a point of your life where you thought, I've got a better chance of making it if I kind of drop down to a lower level and learn the game from there?
Yeah, certainly. I think some guys now maybe can get trapped playing under 23s football or youth team football for so many years, and they kind of get strung along and stuff like that, and then before you know it, you're 22, 23, and you've never played like a senior game, and then you've got to drop down to work your way back up. So I think at the time I was 17, 18, and then obviously the Yeovil thing came about. So I did my second year scholarship there whilst they were in League Two, and then I think six months into my second year scholar is when the manager gave me my debut for the first team, and then shortly after that I signed my first professional contract with them. So I think I don't really regret doing that at all. I think it was good for me to break into the first team at such a young age. Whereas I could have maybe stayed and played youth football for another year, but I think to go and get myself into a first team environment was pretty important as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, making your debut at such a young age, and then Yeovil loaned you out, and you were with a couple of clubs in non-league. Now, we were just chatting before we recorded this. I love non-league football. My team in Scotland's a lower league team as well. For a young guy, it's a tough environment because you're playing obviously with a lot of older guys, some bruisers as well, that if they see a young guy with talent, likes to kind of take you out of the game. How did you find that whole experience?
Honestly, I think non-league in England in general was, and might be the same in Scotland, I'm not sure, but I think it kind of gets overlooked a little bit. I think there's actually good players playing in non-league who, for whatever reason, that they could be playing higher, but they might not have the ambition to play higher, or whatever it is. But there's certainly good players that can be playing at a high level, that maybe haven't had the opportunity, or whatever reason it is for them personally. But in terms of, for me, it was just a case of at the time when the new manager came in, I wasn't really I wasn't playing for Yeovil, so I needed to get games. And if that meant having to drop down a few leagues to get regular games against men every week, and play in a competitive league, then that's what I had to do. So yeah, I think I went to Dorchester from Yeovil, which was pretty close to where we were training and stuff like that. So I would still train with Yeovil full time, but I would play my games on the weekend with Dorchester. So yeah, I think for me at the time, like I said, it was just about getting games and playing week in, week out. Because when you're a footballer, you just want to be playing. At the end of the day, you don't want to train all week to sit on the bench at the weekend. So yeah, I think it definitely gave me the experience of playing with men, playing against men in a competitive league. It's still a relatively young age. So yeah, I think that was definitely a positive experience for me at that time.
I love that attitude, because I think so many young guys, as you kind of say, they kind of get caught up that they want to stay with the bigger teams, and they end up having, if they don't make it, then it's a tougher road for them. But to go and get that experience and a really good blooding in the game, I think is invaluable. And then, of course, you ended up in New Zealand, which, how did that come about? That seems quite random.
Yeah, you look at my career so far, it's been all over the place, to be honest.
It's great though. A lot of experiences.
It's been unique for sure. So after I left Yeovil, well, they didn't renew my contract at the time. I dropped down I moved back home. So in non-league in England, there's because of how many teams there are, they split it up depending on where you're based in the country.
Yeah.
So back home for me was between Birmingham and Nottingham, which is in the Midlands, and obviously Yeovil's down south. So I moved to another non-league team back home for a year. But before that, I actually went on trial to Burton Albion and Barnsley to try and get a gig with an under-23s or an under-18s team. And then it was actually a coach at Burton that put me in contact with someone in New Zealand. And when he first put me in contact, I wasn't not gonna lie, I wasn't too sure about going over there because I didn't really associate New Zealand with football and stuff like that. That's when I went back home, played a season in non-league, and I think I was 18 at the time. I found it pretty tough actually. I wasn't playing as much as I liked, and then it was shortly after Christmas I just picked up the phone to the guy over in New Zealand, and then we had a few chats and a few phone calls and stuff, and then 4 months later I moved out there, and then I think I played over there for maybe 2.5 seasons. But I don't regret that at all.
Yeah, I like during the pandemic, I've been finding weird and wonderful things to watch. So we've been talking about this in the show the last few months. I've been watching a lot of Australian and New Zealand football because it's like live on YouTube at like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So I've just been sitting watching that before bed on like Fridays and Saturdays. And the level, it's not bad. And it's some very picturesque venues and... I mean, just life. I've always wanted to go to New Zealand. I hope to at some point. It's definitely in my bucket list. How was it like, just the lifestyle there and just living there?
Oh, it was amazing, to be honest. So good. I think the first 3-4 months, I found it quite like tough to settle in and stuff because this was the first time I'd lived away from home before, but I'd never lived in a completely different country, on the other side of the world. So the first few months were tough, but once I got over that, it was amazing. Like the country in general was really, really nice. So you got obviously 2 islands, the North Island and the South Island. So the first season was with a team in Auckland. And then the second season was with a team in Wellington, which is the capital. I just met so many people over there, and even the football in general, I think again, like it's overlooked for sure. There's some good players in New Zealand, especially the young players that are coming through now, that are now getting the chance to play for their national team and stuff like that. So I think in a few years you'll start to see, some of these make a name for themselves in Europe, 100%. Because there's some really, really good players over there who just need a chance. And I think when they get that chance, they'll take it.
Yeah, like I said, I've been enjoying watching it. But I guess having that experience, did that kind of give you a taste then for just trying different countries? Obviously, I read a thing you did on the CPL website that you kind of were speaking to a couple of the guys that had been with Valor that were playing down there, like in Sacramento. Did they tell you about the league here, or was Canada a place that you'd always wanted to come and visit? I mean, why Canada? Why CPL?
I think at the time I was in New Zealand at the time when the CPL was first formed. So it was my first season in New Zealand. I think this was roughly the same time as when the inaugural season was taking place in Canada. And then New Zealand obviously wasn't. It's like the top division over there, but it's still classed as amateur, so it's not full time.
Yeah.
So for me at the time, it was about going over there to play games and maybe even do a bit of traveling and stuff like that outside of football. But then I always had an ambition to get back into playing full time. So I spoke to Stephen Hoyle, who was at Valor, Dylan Sacramento, who was at Valor, and then Ahinga Selemani, who's now signed for Cavalry.
Oh yeah.
So they were the three main guys that I knew over there. I spoke to Dylan and Stephen about it, and it was actually Stephen that put me in contact with my agent now, Josh. So if it wasn't for Stephen, to be honest, I don't know if I'd ever come here. So, football's a small world. But yeah, they were the three main guys that we spoke to over there, who had played in this league before, and they were obviously saying, they gave their opinion on it and stuff like that. And I just thought, it's a way back into full-time football for myself. So if I did get the chance to come and play, then yeah, I would take it with both hands. And yeah, luckily that's happened.
Yeah, and I mean, things have started off fantastic for you. 1 goal, 2 assists so far. Some really good performances. We were talking on our show last weekend that right now it's like you've maybe been one of these under the radar players that maybe folk didn't know about, obviously, when you were coming in. But you've really stood out in these early games. How have you found the quality of the league compared to what you've been used to?
I actually think it's a good league, considering some of the teams haven't had much of a pre-season, stuff like that, and we've been thrown into a bubble to start the first 4 weeks of the season. I actually think the competition from the teams that we've played has been good. The games have been competitive, and the standard of the opposition that we've played have been good as well. So I've actually been pleasantly surprised at the start, and how good some of the players are in this league. Obviously, it's still a new league, so it's still growing, and it's still looking at ways to get better and improve. But I think considering last season was a tournament style season in a bubble, I think in 3 years the league's come a long way, and it's for sure it's only going to get better from here on out, I think.
I mean, watching Pacific over these 3 seasons, the first season was a bit of a struggle for them. Last season, obviously, Pa came in, turned things around a little bit. This season, it feels the team has taken another step. The attack in particular, and I was asking Marco Bustos about this the other day. Like with yourself and Boosty and Josh Herd, Matteo Polisi, Tern Campbell, it's such a dangerous attack, and all of you guys look like you're having a lot of fun playing with each other out there.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty comfortable, on the ball, which is obviously it's a start. I think we can all take the ball under pressure, and we're a team that likes to play with the ball and dominate possession. But with dominating possession, I think we have to look to create chances going forward as well. We can't just dominate possession and then not have any end product, which is something that we've been working on over the last few weeks. And evidently that showed against York when we managed to score 2 inside the first 10 minutes. But yeah, I think as a squad so far, we're happy with the start we've had. But yeah, we know we can get even better from here. So yeah, I think for the next 2 games, we're just looking to continue what's got us success at the start of the bubble. But yeah, for sure, we know we can be better, and yeah, we're going to keep training every day to be as good as we can be. And yeah, I think the manager pushes us to be better in training every day as well.
I was going to ask you about Pa. I've known Pa for a number of years. He used to play for the Whitecaps over here, and a long distinguished career in the game at club and international level. I love chatting to Pa. He's such a character. What is he like as a manager? It's obviously the first time you've had experience with him, but how have you found him as a head coach?
No, I really, really, really enjoy working with him. I think he's really passionate in everything he does. I think he's got a really good relationship with all of his players. Yeah. His man and management skills are good as well. And he treats everyone at the club as if we're like, it's cliche, but as if we're all like one big family, Yeah. So yeah, he's got a good relationship with us all off the pitch, which I think is important as well for a player and a manager to have that sort of relationship with your players. And then on the pitch, on the training pitch, or on the field on match day, he's just pushing you to be the best player you can be, and then ultimately to essentially make sure that we win, because that's the most important thing. We want to win games, we want to win championships. So yeah, I think for me, he's been excellent with me. He's made sure that I've settled in quickly, and I've been able to pretty much hit the ground running. So yeah, I've really enjoyed working with him, and then all the boys and all the other backroom staff, and everyone associated with the club has made me feel at home straight away. So yeah, I can't thank them enough for that.
I'll tell you a little story about Pa that you probably don't know, but when he was with the Whitecaps, we won the Canadian Championship for the first time in 2015. So that's kind of like our version of the FA Cup, but with a much smaller number of teams in it. So you get a winner's medal and stuff like that, but because it was the Canadian Championship, and because you're crowned Canadian champions, Pa felt that all the players should get championship rings, but that doesn't happen here. So he went out and bought the whole squad championship rings out of his own pocket. That's the kind of family that he does, and
yeah, for sure.
That blew my mind when he did that. It's like you don't really see that happening in the modern game that much. But the position that you play, you can play centre mid, I know you can play attacking mid, even second striker. But your defensive work, especially like the last game I noticed it in particular, you track back a lot, you do a lot of the heavy work defensively. Is that just something that's always been in your game, or is that something that Pa's asked you to do this year?
Honestly, growing up, it wasn't in my game that much.
Right.
Through my time at Villa and stuff, it was always something that the coaches would try and get onto me about and stuff like that, because they knew what I could do on the ball and going forward and stuff. But they just tried to get me to do the dirty side of the game. But I think once you get older and you start playing competitive football and in a professional league against men, like, you have to do that side of the game, because you can't afford to be good going forward and then not put your foot in and tackle like when you've not got the ball, because you're essentially playing a man down then, aren't you, out of possession if guys aren't defending. So I think for me as well, I'm not the tallest or the strongest, but I just try and put my foot in and break attacks or just be as aggressive as possible when we haven't got the ball. And then I think we all know what we can do when we're on the ball, but for us it's just about winning the ball back as quickly as possible and as high up the pitch as possible, especially when we lose it. But for me, it's something that Paz spoke to me about as well, like the reaction when we lose the ball. So I think slowly I'm starting to understand what he wants from me out of possession. But I just try and do my bit for the team and just work as hard as possible when we haven't got it.
Who were the kind of players that you admired, like when you were growing up, coming through the ranks? Is there anyone, not so much that you modelled your game on, but you really admired and loved watching as a player?
I like watching David Silva in Man City. Yeah, he was one of the players that I used to watch a lot when he was playing in the Premier League. He was a similar position, an attacking midfielder or a centre midfielder. So there was him, and I enjoyed watching Iniesta and players like that who were just really good on the ball. And then as a defensive midfielder, maybe someone like Verratti from PSG. He's small, but he's aggressive, and he can play with the ball as well. So I would say them three are the three guys that I used to enjoy watching growing up.
Cool. Just last couple of things. I know you've earned youth caps with Northern Ireland. Is your hope to get back into the international frame, kind of put yourself in the shop window in the CPL, that folks start to take a bit notice, maybe get even a bigger move, or are you just the kind of guy that just likes to take everything as it comes?
Yeah, I think I just want to play as well as possible. Just take every game as it comes and just focus on one game at a time. And then if I play well enough consistently to earn another international call up or a move to somewhere else, then we'll maybe cross that bridge when it comes to it. But I think for me now, I just want to get my head down and work hard every day in training and stuff, and then just prove to the manager why I should be playing. And then when I do get the chance to play, just make sure that I take it. And come the end of the season, we'll see what happens.
Coming to Canada at this time during a pandemic, like playing football, I guess all of last year during the pandemic when you finished in New Zealand, and I know the non-league game was very heavily disrupted in the UK, but your journey even to Canada, I was reading it sounded horrendous. Like you had to fly into Mexico and quarantine there, and then Seattle, and then to here, and then quarantining again. I mean, that must have just driven you nuts.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. I think it was 5 or 6 flights in like 15 days or something. So I went from Heathrow, London Heathrow to Paris, and then Paris to Cancun in Mexico. And then I had to stay in Mexico for 2 weeks in Cancun. And then I flew from Cancun to Seattle to Vancouver. And then I think I did 1 night of hotel quarantine in Vancouver before I got my test result back, my negative COVID test. And then once I got that back, I traveled from, got the ferry from Vancouver to Victoria. And then I started my 2 weeks quarantine in Victoria. And then I was able to start training after that. So yeah, it was pretty tough, but yeah, it had to be done.
Yeah, I don't envy you
that. Had to be done to get here, yeah.
I mean, last thing, have you had a chance to explore the island much? I know you've probably only been there since the start of May, and then you've headed off obviously into Winnipeg, but did you get a chance to look around Victoria much?
Not really yet, no. I haven't really done too much of exploring the island and stuff like that. It was just a case of training and then pretty much, getting ready for the bubble. But I think when we get back and we get a few days off and stuff, I'll probably look to do a bit of exploring and stuff, and then see what the island's all about.
It's a beautiful place. I don't get over anywhere near as much as I would like. It's so expensive to come over. Like it'd be my wife, my dog, and the car. Like that alone, you're talking like $180 just for the return trip. Never mind hotels and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I hope to get over for the home opener. What, 2 weeks away now?
I think
you must just be 30th. I think. Yeah,
it's
2 weeks tomorrow.
Of July. Yeah,
it's
Friday.
2 weeks tomorrow. You must just be so excited to get back playing in front of fans.
Yeah, I think all the boys are. To be fair, we haven't. To be fair, we haven't actually spoke about it too much. I think we've just been trying to concentrate on the last 2 games here, and then we'll look ahead to the game. When we get back next week. But yeah, I think we just want to concentrate on these last 2 games, and then when we get back to the island, it will be nice to see everyone back in the stands, and then hopefully as soon as we get back, we can start off with a positive result and get a win for our first home game back. But yeah, I think we just want to do as well as we can in these last 2 games, and then we'll look at that when the time comes.
Yeah, fantastic. And you're in the fortunate position that you don't have a game the last weekend there, so you get to head home a bit early, which is quite nice for you guys. I guess you just want to get out of that bubble and start actually having a bit of life. Thank you so much for your time today, Ollie. We did go over, as I said we probably would, because I get a bit
no worries.
I wish you all the very best for your time at Pacific. Look forward to seeing you in person at some point soon. I really appreciate your time today, Ollie. Good luck. Good luck in these last 2 games.
Michael, thank you.
And hopefully I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you very much.
Take care, man.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Pacific FC's Ollie Bassett there. Great chat with him, really enjoyed it. Super nice guy. Looking forward to seeing him in person. Looking forward to seeing what he can do with Pacific FC for the rest of the season. And as I mentioned, Pacific have now wrapped up their kick-off part of the CPL season. The tournament in Winnipeg is all done for them. They're flying home, getting set for taking on Cavalry FC next Friday night in their home opener in front of fans. A lot more Pacific FC chat to come in this episode, and we'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm David Kleineken. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show, one of the great productions that we have in Canada.
Between you and me is a body of water, rising. Between you and me.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's a nice mellow song for you. It's a theme song for one of the New Zealand drama shows that I started watching last year. It's called The Gulf. And that song is by a band called Moniker, and it's called Body of Water. I thought that was just apt because the lyrics go, between you and me is a body of water. And of course, between the Whitecaps and Pacific FC, there's a body of water. I still hope one day that they might build a bridge to save us getting the ferry, but that might just be a bit of a pipe dream. But that TV show, The Gulf, highly recommended. I was trying to find out where you can watch it here, because I've been watching it through VPNs and just downloads from Reddit over the last couple of years. It is on Acorn TV or Sundance Now if you've got kind of Amazon Prime and you've got that as an add-on. It's a pretty gritty drama. It's on the second series. We're working our way through that just now. We're up to episode 3 of it. Quite a good. I've been watching loads of New Zealand shows. I've become quite obsessed with New Zealand, so I have no idea why. Watching football, watching comedy shows. New Zealand Taskmaster is fantastic.
You know what you need to watch next?
What?
This fall, New Zealand Lego Masters, featuring Abbotsford's own Robin Sather.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like
the New
judge.
Zealand one.
He's the judge or whatever.
Oh, okay.
He's a certified Lego professional, the first ever certified Lego professional.
Let's be honest. A lot of people that have a lot of time with Lego should be certified. So. Not casting aspersions at you, Zach. This final part of the show, though, we're going to continue chatting about the CPL and Pacific FC. Now, Pacific FC rounded off their kick-off tournament tonight. They're one of the teams, as we mentioned, that is now done and dusted. They can get home, and they finished in style. An absolutely amazing 4-2 win over Atletico Ottawa on Wednesday night. 2 goals down in the early going. 2 goals down, I think, in the first 14 or 15 minutes. Then Ben McKendry gets sent off for Ottawa for a very high challenge, boot in the face to Matteo Polisi, who we're going to hear from shortly.
It wasn't that high. It was fine.
It caught his ear.
Come on.
Although Matteo is small. So,
yeah,
there's that, yeah.
Yeah, let's not be too hard on Ben.
I mean, that was the game-changing moment, but I mean, you've still got to come back and you've got to get the business done. Pacific got a penalty. Bustos got brought down. Diaz scores from the spot. And then after that, I thought, yeah, Pacific's got this. It was a Diaz hat-trick. First of the season from Terran Campbell. 4-2 win in the end. Atletico's coach, Mista, got sent off for getting 2 yellow cards for verbally abusing the referee. One at the sending off, one at the penalty decision.
Not at the translator, right?
No, not the translator. His English has really improved. He's doing interviews in English now, so that's good. It was his translator that had got sent off. In the last show, I said, I remember watching a game where a translator got sent off.
Oh, that's right. You were right. It was
his translator.
Yeah,
I thought
I do recall that.
Jose Mourinho getting sent off for Bobby Robson, but that probably didn't happen.
But when Mista got sent off, he joined Pamadou Ka in the stand, who was suspended for this game for getting sent off at the end of the last game against Forge for getting 2 yellow cards as well. So some of the refereeing in this tournament has left a lot to be desired. I mean, I like not having VAR, but some of these performances make you think, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure if Zach's in favour of that or not, but probably not.
Michael, I mean, VAR is the VAR is done better in some places in the world than others, but I you know what? I'd rather have VAR where whatever the chances are 99.8% that you're going to get the call right, than have some of the officiating that we've seen in this.
Well, Pacific finish, as things stand just now, they've played their 8 games. So they're second in the table on 14 points, 4 behind Valor FC, who still have 1 game to play. Forge, 12 points in 3rd spot. Cavalry, 11 in 4th. They meet on Thursday night. That should be a cracker. Alan Koch's FC Edmonton got a big win today over Halifax Wanderers, taking them up to 5th on 8 points. Ottawa, 6th with 7 points. Then York, and 6 points, and bottom of the table Wanderers. Now, it's a single table format, and you're already looking at that. And like the points, Valor 18 could finish with 21, Pacific
They're
with 14.
Valor's playing Halifax too, so
Yeah.
they're playing the bottom of the table, so
They've
they
got
should
a good
be.
chance.
Yeah.
And if there's a winner between Forge or Cavalry, whoever wins that, along with Pacific and Valor, massive for me getting these points on the board early. There's already, the top 4 make the playoffs, and there's already a little bit of a split kind of happening there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But, I mean, Pacific, it's been a lot of fun. I'm going to play a little bit of audio now from assistant coach James Merriman. I spoke to him before their final game, just asking him for his thoughts on the season so far and what he feels the team needs to work on to make it to the playoffs for the rest of the season. Here's what he had to tell me. This is your last game before you get to finally head back home, which I'm sure you're all really looking forward to. Can you talk a little bit about the growth that you've seen from the team so far in this tournament and what your key takeaways are that you feel you need to go back and work on now back in Langford?
Yeah, I mean, as expected, these were our first games, right? We didn't have any friendlies coming into the start of the season. So you don't know where we're going to be as a team. We have some new players. How are those players going to mix when it's a real match? So I think we've learned a lot about our players and different combinations of players and within our units, within our team. We've learned a lot. As you said, we're spending every day in the bubble here, so you get to spend a lot of time, debriefing matches and really diving into games and connecting with our players, learning more about who we have and what we have as a group. And I think, what we've seen is some very, very strong performances, some performances that we're really happy with. And as a group, we felt great about. And then some performances that obviously we expect more from us, from ourselves, from our group and individually. So the biggest thing is we want to find that consistency, right, as we grow into the season. And I think we know our potential. We've seen our potential in a couple of matches, and most importantly now is that we start to find that consistency at that level, playing at that level. But we're good. We're in a good place. It's been a great experience. I mean, we've had 7 matches. We've got one more game. It's a great body of work. We've spent a ton of time together. We've dove in deeper into how we want to play and who we want to be this year. And I think we're in a really good place.
Pacific FC assistant coach James Merriman there, just chatting about Pacific's start to the season and looking at what they need to work on to make sure that at the end of the next 20 games, they're going to be in the playoffs and fighting for the CPL title. Certainly wouldn't put it past them. They have got a fantastic young team there. I'm pretty sure they're going to give the Whitecaps a wonderful game over on the island on August 26th. Right now, I would not be surprised if they're going to head into that one as favourites, but we'll see. A lot of it will, of course, depend on what kind of team the Whitecaps put out there. And James, just one of a number of people involved with Pacific FC that have very strong Whitecaps connections. He was a coach with the Whitecaps in their academy for a number of years, as he mentioned earlier in the show. And there's going to be a lot of players certainly up for that, and a lot of players hoping to maybe impress the Whitecaps as well and maybe secure a move to the MLS team come the end of the season. And we're going to round off this episode of the show now with a chat I had with a player that does have Whitecaps connections, albeit quite brief ones. Matteo Polisi was briefly in the Whitecaps residency programme, a Coquitlam Metroford graduate. He had some training stints over in Belgium before ending up heading south and joining the Timbers Academy for a couple of years. He was part of the Coquitlam Metroford side that lifted the BC Provincial Under-15 Cup in 2015. Had some tryouts over in Europe before settling for a college career with Simon Fraser University, joining up with his brother Marcello up at SFU, and the Polisi brothers had a fantastic time at SFU. Very successful, worked really well together. Both, of course, now in the Canadian Premier League, Marcello at Halifax Wanderers, and Matteo with Pacific FC. And it's been great to watch Matteo's rise the last couple of years. I've watched him play with SFU, I've watched him play with TSS Rovers, watched him play locally in the VMSL with a couple of teams as well. And now watching him take to the pitch in the Canadian Premier League with Pacific, it's fantastic. I'm sure there's a very bright future ahead for Matteo. And it's been a wonderful couple of weeks for him. He's made his pro debut, he's got his first pro goal, he's played against his brother in the CPL. So I got a chance to chat with Matteo last week. Again, just like Ollie Bassett, it was just before they had their final 2 games still to play. But it was good to catch up with him again, just to talk about his move into the pro ranks, the season so far, and a lot more besides. So go grab another hot beverage and your favourite biscuit of choice, and listen to our chat with Pacific FC striker Matteo Polisi. So delighted to be joined now by a man we know very well here at AFTN, and if you've been watching the CPL this season, you'll have seen him. If you've been following TSS Rovers or SFU in recent years, you'll know him well from that. Welcome to the show, Matteo Polisi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
The last couple of weeks, Matteo, you've made your pro debut. You've got your first pro goal. Italy's won the Euros. It must have been a pretty fantastic couple of weeks for you.
Yeah, honestly, it's been great. Everything you mentioned there has been fantastic. Italy winning the Euros, yeah, making my debut and scoring my first goal. But it's been honestly so much fun in Winnipeg right now. Actually getting games in. I mean, for me, I hadn't played a competitive game really. It was, I think, in 2019 must have been my last competitive game with SSU.
Yeah.
So it's been, I mean, so long, and just training and stuff with COVID by myself, and then getting the deal with Pacific, and then just still training there for so long, and finally getting games at competitive games for points. It just feels different, getting out there. It means more. You can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, last year, it must have been so tough because we've all been waiting for you and Marcello to get a pro deal somewhere for probably a couple of years now, really. Yeah. And I know you were in the draft for MLS, but as Canadians, it's always tough to get picked out of that. Yeah. Was this the year that you both kind of said, look, this is the year, we need to go pro this year, it's got to be this year?
Yeah, basically, honestly, what happened was when COVID first happened back, I guess it was like over a year ago, probably like 16 months now-ish. Obviously, all soccer stopped, even pro leagues. And then we were kind of just doing nothing. And then we started working to make some money because we were just like nothing else to do. And then it kind of got to like summertime, and our season wasn't going to happen with SSU, we realized. And basically our coaches at SSU too were just like, you guys got to leave now. Like, there's no point of waiting. You got to try to find options somewhere else. Like, there's no point of waiting for one more year. Like, you guys are just getting older now. So that's when we kind of just started exploring options, maybe possibly going to Europe or trying to talk to CPL teams. And I have a good connection with James just because he coached me back when I was U15 provincial team, actually. Yeah. So I've known him for quite a number of years. And even when Pacific first started, James has like always been checking in on me, seeing how I'm doing. And even I went to go train there the first year. So kind of always had that relationship there. So then basically I got in contact with James in August of last year. Just seeing, they were away in the bubble, but just basically saying like, what are you guys' plans? Kind of, do you guys have any room? And then I just went to go train with them at the end of the season, kind of back in October, November of last year. And then the deal came through, and I'm happy to be here, honestly. But like, it kind of, when COVID happened, that's kind of when me and Matteo realized that just like, we can't just sit around and wait, because who knows what's going to happen. with all of soccer. We knew now at that point professional sports were the only sports that were going on. There was college sports and amateur sports were all being stopped, but however professional sports were starting to continue. So it was just like we needed to get into an environment there.
I mean, absolutely, and it's like football's such a short career. You don't want to waste any time because there's always younger guys kind of coming through behind you and stuff as well. So, like going to Pacific, let's talk through your debut. After all the work that you've put in, I mean, you've been a guy. You've not been afraid to go and chase your dream. I mean, you were down in Portland with the Timbers for a while, and this has always been your goal for so long. To step on the pitch and to make that debut, what was that moment like for you?
Honestly, even though there was no fans or anything like that, though, I had just a crazy amount of like energy and adrenaline. Just being on the pitch in a professional game, first game, you can just feel the intensity of the game and the speed of play. It's faster. And just I had just like a buzz, even though I was on the field for like a couple minutes. I still felt myself having like just a buzz on the field, just hungry, just wanting more. And even after the game, I played a couple minutes, but I thought I did well. I pressed. I was working hard, and that's all you can do when you get that much time. But I was happy with that, and the coaches put more trust in me, giving me more opportunity, and I think I've done well with it so far.
Let's talk about the other big highlights so far. But there's two more highlights to talk about, but we'll talk about your first pro goal. I was delighted for you when I was watching it and it went in. I'd let out a huge yell, having watched you for so many years now. Your reaction as well, you could see just how much that meant to you. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's always been, obviously, as a kid, to play professional, and then to score professionally is obviously another dream of mine, and really just the emotion of that actually happening and the reality of it sinking in was just like, wow, like I did it, like, you know what I mean? But always still wanting to push for more and never staying satisfied, always wanting more, always staying hungry. But just the relief kind of getting that first goal, just it means a lot. Yeah, honestly, really special moment.
I guess it's a weight off your shoulders as well, because as a striker, you know what it's like. It's like, oh, when's that first goal coming? And I remember when Alphonso Davies was here and he was playing USL with the Whitecaps, he was always getting asked, when you're going to get your first goal, when you're going to get your first goal. And then just the relief to get that. Was it a mixture of like joy and relief?
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't really so much relief. It's not like it's been like, 20 games and I haven't scored.
That's true.
Right? Like that was it was my second start, 6 minutes into my second start, and I scored a goal. And I think that just shows like what I can do at this level. Like, I've been a goal scorer at the college and PDL level, and I plan to continue on and having that same impact at this level.
You talked about the game being a little bit quicker. Is that the biggest difference that you've noticed from playing like with SFU, from playing with TSS? And like, how difficult was it to get back into the swing of things after being out for like a year and a half?
Yeah, I would say, just the speed of play, like as well as just players are more intelligent. They have better of a like soccer IQ, but at the same time, I find it's easier actually to play with better players in a way, because everyone thinks faster. The game's played in your head, not like, you know what I mean? It's more of a thinking game. And yeah, the players are fast and strong as well. But I mean, the game's played, especially the way we want to play, it's mainly played in the head. The way we want to play, we want to be a possession style team. I think everyone can see that. And I think the quality of players that we have, we're able to play that kind of style.
I spoke to Ollie Bassett yesterday, and like for me, he's been one of the big unsung heroes, really. Well, I don't even know if you can say that anymore. He's getting a lot of attention, but bringing a guy like Ollie in, and then you've got Marco Bustos, and then yourself, Josh Hare, Tern Campbell, like Diaz. It's such an exciting attack. that Pacific's got just now, and you all seem to be playing as a really close-knit unit, and it must be so exciting for you to have those guys around you.
Yeah, like I was saying before, the quality of players around me makes it easier for me to do my job. When the service that you get from, you're talking about Ollie, how he's a player that's made an instant impact on the team, and everyone can see it, and players like Bustos, Taryn, Diaz, everyone really, the quality in the final third that we have is very high. So it's good. It's been a joy to play with everyone.
I've known Pa for 6-7 years now, since he was here with the Whitecaps, and I've always loved the guy. He's just such a character. How have you found him as a coach? He seems like one of those coaches that's a real kind of player's coach. It's like it just seems that he's got a great relationship with all you guys. Yeah,
Pa is he's a very demanding coach on the field of his players. He wants a certain standard, a certain level. But I mean, Pa, he is a player's coach. He he'll always put his arm around you and tell you what he thinks, what you can do better, and encourage you. And if you do well, you'll feel the love from him. And even if you're not doing well, he'll still put his arm around you and try to lift you and try to get the most out of you. And I feel like he genuinely cares about every single player on the team. That's why he says we're all family. And I feel it from him. Yeah.
Now, of course, the other big personal highlight for you, I'm sure, came on Tuesday, playing against Marcello. I was so disappointed in the very first game that Marcello was still like coming out of his quarantine and everything, and you couldn't face off each other. So then I saw that you were on the bench. I was like, oh no, hopefully you're going to come on. But what was that moment like for the pair of you?
Yeah, it wasn't super long for us being on the field together, but we're so used to playing with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about college, PDL, and even VMSO. We went to Reno, and then we went to CCV. Like, we've been playing on the same team literally for like 4 or 5 years. I think 4 years probably at least. So yeah, seeing him on the opposite end of the team, playing against him, it was weird, but it was fun going up against him. I tried to get close to him, see if I could give him a little tackle, but I wasn't able to.
He said he was going to go for your ankles. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, we didn't have any duels, but maybe next time we play each other, hopefully we do. We'll see who comes out on top.
I hope to speak to him next week, so I'll see what he says about that. Pacific just now, though, like, you're playing some lovely football and you've got the points on the board early. I know there's been a couple of draws in there, but even though it's like pre-season, this seems a crucial time to get a little bit of gap between yourself and some of the other teams, which you seem to be doing. How are you looking at the team? I mean, you've been around a lot of teams. You've seen all the other teams either played against them or probably seen them on TV or whatever. How good do you feel the team's going to be this year?
Very good, to be honest. I think you can see it when we're on, when our team is on. I think that we're very, very, very dangerous. The problem with us, maybe for the first games, has just been at times our consistency. But it's early in the season. Maybe that's expected, but you can see that when we're on. And if we can get to the level where we're consistently always on, I think we can win it, and I think we can go far. But I think that will be the biggest challenge for us, is staying on the front foot, staying consistent. And if we can do that, always playing the brand of football that we want, I think we can do very, very well this year.
Yeah, I genuinely think that as well. It's such an entertaining team to watch. I tweeted out after Tuesday's game, even the 0-0 draws are entertaining because the brand of football that Pa's got you playing, it's fun to watch. And as someone that's been watching the Whitecaps this season, it's nice to actually see a team that is having a little bit of a attacking play, which is quite rare to see. How have you found like bubble life? I know some of the guys, it's been a little bit tougher for them, and like you're a big family guy and you're a social guy.
Yeah.
Has it been tough for you?
Yeah, it's been honestly, obviously a little bit boring at times. I mean, it's the same stuff. I mean, all we're doing is going to the field and back to our hotel. But you have to look at the bright side. I mean, we're able to play games right now. I mean, it's exciting. And it's not too long. It's only going to be like 4 weeks. We have, I think, just like 6 days left, and we'll be back. So, yeah, it's obviously not been the easiest. I mean, just being in a bubble and not being able to actually go out and do anything. But we're all looking forward to get back home and playing at home for sure.
Who's your roommate?
Ali. Yeah.
I saw him briefly in the background, so I was curious who it was. Because I know you're sharing a house with Baldy, and he told me
and
the other...
Ali.
And Ali as well. I knew it was... I couldn't remember who the other person was, because I spoke to Baldy a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That must be fun.
Yeah.
Like, getting back then to Victoria, playing in front of fans. I hope to make it over for the opener. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to, because it's Friday night, but how much are you looking forward to that? Taking foot on the pitch, having the fans there cheering you on. Looks like it's going to be maybe 5,000.
Yeah, it looks like 5,000 will be our capacity right now. But I mean, honestly, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I've never really played in front of like real fans in that kind of environment. So playing in front of fans would be something I've dreamed of, playing in front of fans, you know, getting that. I'm sure there'll be that extra adrenaline of your home fans cheering you on. And honestly, I can't wait.
Last couple of things. I was on a call last night with Colin from TSS, so he was speaking like he was so proud of seeing you playing in CPL now, and the other guys as well. When you look back at those years with TSS, I know it wasn't always the most successful on the pitch, but it seemed to be a lot of fun at times playing in front of the Swan Guardians and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, TSS, it was enjoyable for sure. Yeah, playing at Swan Guard, I mean, pitch. And even the fans of Swan Guardians, you know, there's sometimes not a lot of them out there, but it adds a special atmosphere for like a amateur or semi-pro, whatever you want to call it, league. But no, and my time at TSS for sure helped me develop as a player, just getting lots of games in, and you're playing against good opposition too. A lot of quality players that, you know, you see some of them going on to play in USL or even MLS. A lot of those guys down in the States.
So last thing, and then I've got two quick fun things to do with you. But like last thing, I know you don't want to probably share too much because it's like personal stuff. But goals for this season, is it just to kind of keep developing, get a few goals in? Have you kind of, you don't need to tell me, but have you set yourself a target as to how many goals you'd like this year?
Yeah, I have an idea in my head, of what I want to reach. But I mean, there's no secret. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I want to be a big player for this team. I mean, I'm not going to sit here, and I'd be lying if I was telling you that I'd be happy just, you know, being on the 18, you know, just making the team. That's not who I am. I'm trying to be, I won't shy away from that. I mean, I want to be a big player for this team, and I hope it will show. I hope I can.
That's the attitude to have it, because for me, a player that's just like, oh, I'm happy just to make the 18, that isn't what you want. You want to be a guy that you're disappointed if you're left out. The games are coming thick and fast, obviously, as well. So, I mean, I know there'll be a lot of rotation. How have you found that? Because I've noticed, like, the games recently, the quality's dipped. Not just Pacific, like, I'm talking across all these games. Yeah. It seems the energy levels have definitely gone down a little bit with a lot of the players.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, I think on Saturday will be like our 5th game in 13 days. So, I mean, we've been playing every 2 days, like a game, 2 days off game. It's been tough for the guys, especially for some of the guys that have played almost every minute. I mean, it is very tiring. You can see that, but I mean, at least it's we have 2 games left, and when we get back, there'll still be honestly quite a bit of games in a short amount of time, but it will be more stretched out. So it'll be a bit more time for recovery in between each game.
And like once you get back as well, you're lucky that you're not playing next weekend, so you get to get away from the bubble quite early as well. So that'll be quite good for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure watching your career up to now. It's been a pleasure seeing you on the pitch in CPL action. Hope to see you in person soon enough.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Matteo. But it's been a pleasure chatting to you. And good luck, man. Take care.
Awesome. Yeah. No, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Matteo Polisi there. Great to catch up with him again. Look forward to seeing him in action in the flesh against the Whitecaps when they plays them at the end of August. In the meantime, we'll just have to watch for him on TV and wish him and his brother Marcello all the very best. We'll also be catching up with Marcello in a future episode soon as well. And it's just great to see both of them now signing their first pro deals in the pro ranks. Colin Elms from TSS tells a story that last year during the pandemic, he was just walking down the street and he heard someone shouting, "Hey, Colin!" Turned round and saw both the Polisi brothers hanging off the back of a bin wagon because they had to, as he said there, just get some work, get some jobs just to try and tide themselves over before they could actually get their footballing careers up and running. I mean, obviously, the COVID pandemic has hit a number of people, a number of businesses, a number of areas really, really hard. And for young footballers wanting to make a go of it in the pro game, it's really limited just what their opportunities are. But that's one of the many reasons why it's great to have the Canadian Premier League. And it's great to have that vehicle for guys like Matteo and Marcello to catch the eye, hopefully move on to bigger and better things in the future. We wish them both all the very best. But that is nearly it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. But we can't leave you without bringing you a wavelength. And for this episode, I'm bringing you an absolute cracker of a track from last year, a Liverpool band called Courting. This is simply called Football.
Football. You understand? It's all part of the plan, don't you understand? Nigel!
Liverpool band Courting there with their single Football. They're a much heralded band from England. Check them out. Really love that sound, really love that style, really love that song. Hope you did as well. But that is it for this episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. But just before we go, let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat.
For me, it's at Zachary AM.
I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada, on Instagram at AFTN Soccer, and on YouTube at AFTN Canada. Give us a like and a subscribe and all the stuff that the young kids try to do in all their videos. We'll be back next week, but until then, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the returning Caps. Bye everyone.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.